Thank you. I'm happy. I want to say a big well done to all of you organizers and how you've managed to communicate with us very frequently to make sure that this resides on our minds so that we can build up towards this event for today, which is a long day event. I must commend your effort, and I must also commend the fact that there are many young people that decided that they were going to be part of this, not just do other things that they would have loved to do, but be part of what I would like to call preparation for the future. Like I was being introduced earlier as the youngest person that ever presented himself to contest for office of the president in Nigeria. It is also important that I also add that all of that was inspired by the fact that I got tired of standing on the sidelines and criticize and complain and, you know, always lament about the things that are not working well in my country or I think should be working the way I thought or I think they should work, which is one of the reasons why I presented myself before the entire country and said enough was enough or enough is enough, and that I'm going to be presenting myself to run for the highest office of the land. Yes, we did get a lot of support from young people, but at the same time, one of the things that affected our campaign was the fact that a lot of young people still were not convinced that we had the capacity or the ability to deliver to the country the kind of governance that we are all yearning for. And I think that is mostly because many young people in our generation are totally disenfranchised from knowledge, from information, most times from the truth. And all of this is a combination of the fact that we are living in a time, or our generation has been affected by some of the activities that have happened at least in the last 50 years. And when I say activities that have affected us in the last 50 years, I'm talking about how we've managed education, how we've managed our history, how we've managed the information that comes into our generation. So I'm going to give you a quick example. Anybody in this country between the ages of, say, 60 upwards got educated without necessarily being told what to go and study in school. The system was available. All you needed to do was present yourself in school, and you were left to choose what career path you wanted to follow. Most of them chose the career path, and they're excited about those career paths. And we have seen how they have done so well in their spaces. Now, fast forward to sometime around the mid-70s or early 70s, we started having people who, in all honesty, were told to go to school, were being compelled by their parents on the course of study, were being compelled by their parents on the spouses to choose for themselves, were being compelled by their parents on where they should work and why they should work there. And so we started having a generation of people who were totally submissive to their elders on what exactly they should do. And yes, I did hear my very big brother talking about Mr. Femi Adesina earlier, speaking about lazy youth and all of that, and we should not be lazy and we should be active and we should do things. But I always want to remind the older generation that for any time you find younger people not doing the things that you want them to do, always, as much as you're looking for faults in them, always also look for faults in the older generation and their inability to have mentored or presented themselves for mentorship for these young people. And this is very crucial because for most of us, the thought process is always that I expect my child to grow up and do the right things. But my child is only going to grow up and do the right thing if I'm able to instill the right values in that child. So if some people are not doing the things that we want them to do, say for example, all of the chaos and the mayhem going on in the Niger Delta, or the chaos and the mayhem going on in the northeastern part of the country with a lot of young people below the ages of 35 creating so much havoc, out of school children, inadequate health facility, then, you know, elected officials who are unable to communicate with their wards, with their constituency to do the right kinds of projects. And then you come back and say, oh, the problem is that the young people are too much in a hurry. They want to make money. They want to do, I mean, if I'm going to be able to sit down to talk to young people as to why they must accept education. I must and also be prepared to let them know that the reason why they must accept education is because at the end, in the long run, it is going to profit them. It is going to profit them either by the kind of jobs they're going to have or the kind of opportunities that are going to be before them. And while I am doing that, I must be able to justify all of the wealth that I've acquired or the position that I've acquired to have been legitimately gotten as a result of education or educating myself and the hard work I had put into it. But if I'm unable to correlate these two, it simply means that they are not going to listen to me. So I put a group of young people together, and I'm talking to them about corruption and why they must desist from corruption and why they must accept education. Meanwhile, all my children are studying abroad, or at the same time as I'm talking to them, they can look into my compound and they're seeing more than 20 SUVs. They're not going to listen to me. So it's a direct reflection of what we have presented to this new generation that is making them act the way they're acting. And my appeal is still going to be this: do not lose hope. Do not say because you're young or because the circumstances around your being are directly affecting your ability to present yourself as a successful person, you're going to give up or you're going to join the bad group of people and do the wrong things. I'm going to say this very clearly. I'm not a fortunate kid. A lot of people see me and the first thing that crosses their mind, oh, he's a privileged kid and that's why he's doing all the things he's doing and that's why he has the opportunity that he has. It's absolutely untrue. I was only 14 when I lost my father, and this was in 1993. So by the time you do the math, you can see that for a long time in my growing up years, I didn't have a father. I was raised by a single mother. And to think that at that time, my mom was just 32, and she had married my dad when she was 16 and left schooling. And so she didn't have an education to even pursue a very good job for herself. So if you want to critically analyze my life from 1993 up until when I went through secondary school, when I went through university, it was an unbelievable, miraculous escape from either becoming a tout or becoming one of the menaces to society that I could have possibly become because of all the challenges that faced me. I could tell you very clearly some years that we were not sure how we were going to feed. I remember a year when all we fed from January to December was a bag of rice that was handed to us by a good Samaritan. We were not sure if we were going to go to school. Sometimes we were in school and we had to come back because we needed to put our school fees together, and we could see how our mom would put one thing from our room, sell so that we can get back to school. So all of these challenges were there. But the one thing that our mom was able to instill in our heads to say, you know what, do not lose hope. I may just be 32. I'm like a kid myself. I'm still trying to understand how we're going to manage this situation. But please, can you all, agree to, focus on your education? Let us do well in our education. Let's see if that route is not going to pay us in the long run. And I can sit down here today and say, yes, I'm the first of 6 children. Everybody in that house has got a master's degree. Everybody in the house is settled. You see everyone in their house and they're actually thriving every day to become better. So very clearly, I think my story is a direct explanation of what exactly is going on in the country today and how many people would lose hope naturally because of all the challenges that they've been faced with. But I just want to say that you must be steadfast. And as much as we talk about our elders and what is expected from them, I want us to also realize that we have a lot of challenges in our country. But one of the biggest problems that we have faced recently is that whenever we have an opportunity to talk to people outside Nigeria, for example, the first thing we do is to complain about how things are not working right, how the government isn't the right government, how elections were manipulated. And you see, what this does to you, if you do not know, it lowers how people perceive you outside this country, how people perceive you within this country. So if you look at great countries around the world, the first thing their citizens do is to speak very, very proudly of their country. Even if they're going to have their infightings within to get the best kind of systems, they are always consistently trying to talk about how to portray their countries in the right light so that acceptability and respect and honor comes to their country. And once your neighbors respect you and honor you, by all means, you are going to work towards upholding that kind of respect. But by the time the whole world sees you as inefficient, inactive, corrupt, misguided, many times these things will not work. And I'm glad a lot of young people are here. Whenever you see a news of a Nigerian or an African around the world doing great things, take the pain. It's not even really much of a pain, but take the time to share this information. Let the world know that good things can come out of Africa. But unfortunately for us, we have been found wanting. When the news is negative, we are quick to share it, even before verifying. The other thing I want us to know is the spate of the sharing or the talk about fake news is overwhelming, to speak the least. Because as I speak to you right now, a lot of young people partake in anything that is going to create more mayhem. Unfortunately for most of us, we do not understand the consequences of these actions that we take. We think we are fighting against the North, or we're fighting against the South, or the East, or the West. Yes, we live in a complex society. We're very complex. We have different kinds of tribes, we have different religions, we have different viewpoints, we have different social statuses, different political party ideological affiliations. We even have our differences when it comes to gender and the things that happen to the other sexes, regardless, depending on what the situation is. But I want us to pause for a moment to understand that the reason why we are all supposed to work together collectively is because at the end of the day, if the things we're fighting for or are asking for can be done collectively, I can bet you that we will succeed. So take, for example, you see a group of young people saying that they want the government to be changed, for example. Yes, I'm going to talk political because this is my forte. And you see a lot of young people say, I'm going to step into the space and I'm going to require or request that the government be changed. The government cannot be changed by that process, because that process that got the government into office in the first place is a constitutional process. The only way you can get the government out of office is going to be through a constitutional process. In other words, while the government is in there, there are a lot of things that we can ask from the government that I can assure you we can get. For example, what stops us as a people, as a generation of young people, to take a march to the National Assembly and ask for things like the eradication of state of origin from all the forms that we feel? What stops us from requesting that before the end of this year, the government must go into full digitization? In other words, every single person must be accounted for, because that is the only way the government can actually ensure that it meets up with the needs of our people, especially the young people. But if we're talking about building up a budget for a country or for a people that you do not know how many they truly are, then you're not going to be talking any sense. Because at the end of the day, as a father or as a mother in your home, you know how many kids you have. That's how you're going to know how much you're going to budget for school fees. That's how you're going to know how much you're going to budget for feeding. That's how you know how much rooms you need in your house. That's how you know how to prepare for every single thing on your list. But if you're running a country and you're unable to tell how many people live in that country at a time in 2020, when we know that data management systems are the only way out of this chaos, then we are not heading towards the right direction. I can assure you, only 10,000 young people marching to the National Assembly to demand for proper data management systems in our systems would eventually get us working in the right direction. That is the only time when the government will say palliatives have reached certain people, and they will say, what are their numbers? Give us their special identification numbers. If we can get the special identification numbers, they can actually go to a platform and say, yes, I received palliative. Otherwise, we're not going to be talking about anything. We're going to be always talking about things that we just keep imagining. We're talking about a time when in the National Assembly till today, when serious matters that concern your constituencies, that concerns our age bracket are being discussed, and the representative, the House of Representatives for our constituency is there only to say hey or nay. That is nothing. I need to know what you said. I need to know what you voted for, because that's the only way I'll be able to tell if you spoke for me or my constituents. In other words, when a matter is raised in the National Assembly, you are expected to go back to your constituency and say, these are the matters on ground. You're sitting down with the stakeholders and you're asking the stakeholders, how do we react to this? What do you people really want? Because you are there for your stakeholders, for your constituencies, and not for yourself. These are the things I want young people to demand for, so that our voices might truly be heard and the right kind of value can be gotten back to us. So by the time your national representative is in the National Assembly and is coming back to ask you guys what to vote for, and he goes back to the National Assembly and is asked to vote, and he votes either a yes or a no to the matter, the list of people who voted is clearly listed. You can tell that your representative voted either a yes or a no for you, and you know whether you want to re-elect him. But if he has voted against all the things that you have stood for as a constituency, then by all means, you do not need him there. The other things that we could be asking for are things like total autonomy for local government chairmen. Do you know that one of the most important health sectors when it comes to the Ministry of Health, the area that really should concern us is primary health centers? What are we doing to ensure that these primary health centers are truly empowered? How do we empower these primary health centers? The only way we can empower these primary health centers is to understand who is responsible for the primary health centers. And whoever is responsible for the primary health centers should be allowed the right resources so that those people can manage the primary health centers. As it is in our constitution, the local government chairmen are responsible for the health centers. But as I speak with you right now, the local government chairmen are answerable to the governors. Only when the governors decide to release allocation to the local government chairmen, depending on their mood, depending on their relationship with the local government chairman, these monies or these allocations will never get there. So these primary health centers have been left to languish because the right people that are supposed to look after this local government, these primary health centers are unavailable, not because they are not there, but because the right resources that are supposed to be allocated to them, they never get to them. When we ask for the total autonomy for local government chairmen, we can now hold those local government chairmen accountable for not doing what they're supposed to do, especially when the government must be transparent to tell us exactly how much they sent to them. We can also look at the issues of the state assemblies. Most of us are here as young people. We don't even know these structures exist. These are the structures that can give us good governance. So by the time you are marching towards the National Assembly and you are asking for total autonomy for state assembly members so that they can checkmate their governors wherever they're falling short, so that they can question their governors on how he manages the budget, so that projects that the governors has embarked on can be clearly, monitored and reports can be given from the state assembly to say, this is the progress of this project. This is how far he has gone. But the only way these state assembly members can do this is if they are strong enough. And the only way they can be strong enough is if their allocation can come directly from the federal government purse without necessarily going through any state governor. So that by the time they are truly empowered, based on the allocation that the constituency has allocated for them, they can now sit down and say, Mr. Governor, come and explain this to us. But as I speak with you, most state assembly members even go to the governor's office for meetings. That is not the structure. These are the things that I want us to understand. So by the time you know that these are the processes and they're not happening how you want them to happen, you are now going further. You are now going further to ask why they're not happening. And by the time they see the multitude of us having the right information, the right knowledge, the right exposure, they will fix these things. But if you are saying, I want Buhari to leave, or I want Goodluck Jonathan to leave, the problem has not been solved. Because these people are going to eventually, their tenure are going to elapse, but you can't move them before their time because constitutionally, they're in office. We must also understand that we do have the power as the people to recall National Assembly members. National Assembly members can be recalled. If we raise a petition and say we're not excited about our representative, we can actually write a petition, submit to the system, and request that we want to have another election within that constituency. This is the only constitutional way to remove that person from office. It's in our hands. We are not exploring these things, but we find ourselves on social media insulting each other from morning till night, forgetting that whatever is happening to the people in the southeastern part of this country, in the southwestern part of this country, in the northern part of this country are all the same. We are all going through the same issues. If you talk about banditry in the north, there's banditry in the west, there's banditry in the east. If you talk about mayhem caused by Boko Haram, it's going on by the Colombo boys in Calabar, it's going on by the area boys in Lagos. It is the same thing all over, but we forget these things and we keep focusing on the small things like ethnicity, religion, political party, ideological affiliation, gender, age brackets, and social status, and all of those little things that we cannot separate ourselves from because we're intertwined in them. So I want us to think deeply. And when I presented myself to run for political office, I heard a lot of people, including young people, tell me things like, what experience have I got? Why should I be running for this? There's no way I could possibly have the right knowledge or experience to actually fix the Nigerian problem. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. But the most important thing here for all of us to understand is that the kind of experience required for good leadership does not have to be earned through a political process. And I also want to remind us that in this same country that we live in today, there were people who in their 20s and 30s were running some of the biggest offices today that are unable to function. And when you look at our landscape and all the development that you can spot, they were developed by people who were in their 30s some 40 years ago. So what makes you think you don't have the capacity to do that? But I know where the problem is. By the time we sit down with our elders, just like the way my elder brother Femi Adesina said, and some other people, they said, listen to them all the time. But I want us to be able to listen to them with reason. While we listen to them with respect, with honor, with dignity, we should also be willing to ask ourselves the other questions. How true are these things? Do we have to always listen to them? Yes, if we listen to them, what do we take back home? Are we able to rationalize all the things that we heard? Can we view those things from all angles and say, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense? I take a little bit from the old school, like you said, I take a little bit from the new school, like you said, put them together and see how the experiences can give you the kind of space that you want to have growing up as a human being in this very complex time that we are living in. Because these situations are not just with Nigeria, they are across the African board. I want us to ask ourselves those questions. The other thing that I want us to also realize is that by the time you sit down with those people and they tell you, oh, for example, a few years ago, I met somebody who said to me very clearly that young people do not have anything to offer, that young people just want to collect money. And I'm glad that the earlier speaker before me clearly said, he said, look, if you are going towards these old people to be mentored, and the first thing on your mind is to see how you can corner that mentorship to start asking for support, financial support, then you are going through the wrong process. That's a wrong intent. Because in all honesty, this is what many young people have been found to do. We are always presenting ourselves before these elders, looking for what to ask for them. And yes, we've been labeled as the asking generation. We must fight this. We must stop this. Am I supposed to stop?
Yes, we have like 3 questions we really want to ask you before we let you go. We are getting questions from people. I mean, you've made a lot of sense, and some are also worried and saying, are we trying to get them to do a match? And we are saying, no, we are not trying to get you to do any match whatsoever. I don't think that's where the talk is going. But I don't mind if you can take 3 questions, sir.
I'm ready. I'll take questions.
Okay. So the first one says, what can the youth do to change the political landscape in Africa for the better?
I have said it to all of us many times. To start with, this has nothing to do with me asking for any march. But for those people who are willing to make marches, I want you to make marches that are collective. I want you to make marches that are sensible. I want you to make marches that can acquire or that can help you get the things that you want from the system. Not just marches that will make you look like troublemakers. Ask for the right things. Put yourselves together and say, this is what we want. And when we ask for these things, who are these things going to favor? Everybody, not me or my region. Let it be collective. And so, yes, I'm not asking for any march. I'm not asking for anything like that. But I'm just saying, for all of you who want to do all of these kind of things, make sure you're asking for the right things. Was that the question?
Yes. We have another one.
So the second question is, how can the current political ideologies across Africa drive better political engagement for the African youth?
It's simple. It's the same things I've been talking about. Everybody who is watching this would understand that many times that we try to make this collaboration of efforts, we try to bring things to divide it. So if if you're from the north and you come out and say you want to do this, a lot of people from the south would hardly support you. If you're from the south, you want to do this, a lot of people from the north will hardly support you. That is because what we are fighting for have not been properly dissected to the point of understanding that it affects all of us. We're going through the same process, we're going through the same challenges. And so across Africa, the one thing I have seen is our inability, but you won't blame young people in Africa too much. And the reason is because we're so disenfranchised. You know, I was talking to some people recently and I said, even the history that we've been taught has been distorted. If you read all the history books about at the time that colonialists visited Africa, they say that we were in leaves. It's untrue. As far back as the 14th, 15th century, we already had universities across Africa. One in the West African region was Timbuktu in Mali. We had a University of Timbuktu in Mali where people who were studying whatever they were studying in their local countries were waiting for the right time to go to Mali to go and broaden their education in a university. We had fabrics. We were clothed. We wore clothes. It's not true that we were on leaves. We were in leaves. It's not true that we were hopping trees. It's untrue. We had a legal system. We had trading partners. We had a policing system. We had our system in place. And if anybody thinks it was an unfair system, look at the current system today and tell me how fair it is. The point still remains that we must be able to look at the true history of our nature, of our being. For example, you will hear somebody say, I discovered River Niger. Was that supposed to be Mungo Park? At the time he got to River Niger, are you telling me that nobody else was there? There were villages around the River Niger. People were already living there. But the history today is telling my father, myself, and my children that it was discovered by Mungo Park. It is untrue. These are the things we must dispel so that we may be able to find some self-worth as a people, as a race, as a generation, as to where we've been, where we are, and where we want to go to.
Okay, so the final question before we let you go, because we need to go on a short break before we start off the next session by 4. The final question is, given the African political terrain, is this still practicable to say that the youth are the leaders of tomorrow?
The truth of the matter is, like the first speaker spoke about the natural course of nature, which will definitely make some people old, weak, and die. And all of us talking today, in another 30, 40 years, we are also going to be very old and weak. It's just natural. So the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. However, we can make this time happen sooner than expected by the actions that we make today. The demand for proper education, the demand for proper healthcare, the demand for the total restructuring of this country, that is the only time we can find some relevance in ourselves. That's the only time our participation in politics and the emergence of young people in politics can happen, because then we will actually have a system that can checkmate people, especially those people who get into political exercises with stolen wealth.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you for your time, for making our time, and thank you for what you're doing with young people in terms of ICT and the hackathon that you usually put on. I don't know if you were able to do it this year with the pandemic.
No, we're not doing it this year, unfortunately. But we've had hackathons for the last 8 years where we bring young people from all over the country and bring up a problem. It's either we're talking about education, or either we're talking about CBT, or either we're talking about data management systems and the best ways that our generation can formulate applications that can help us solve some of these problems. We also do a lot of CSR work, corporate social responsibility, for people living with disability, like young people, like people with blindness and deafness, albinos. Our thought process is that for most of these people, they are unable to travel from point A to point B easily. So why don't you expose them to some skill that they can actually do without necessarily having to travel? They can sit there in one place and make some money for themselves. We also invite young children from our neighborhood where our office is situated, where we bring them into our hub and expose them to ICT, only so that they can know that there are other things they can do with themselves, especially at a different time like this, where the conventional courses like medicine and architecture and pharmacy have actually been reassembled with the use of technology. There's so much we're doing, and I want to thank you for this opportunity. I wish we had more time, but then I'm always going to be available. I'm also apologizing for getting to the time of the break.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But before I let you go, I want to ask you, do you think it's still possible for someone under 40 anytime soon to become the president of Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay. That's hopeful. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Buhari. Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. And for anybody wondering, I'm not related to the president. We just share the same name. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you for correcting that, because a lot of people believe, I mean, when you talked about your mom, I mean, it was so emotional to understand that, you know, you went through that. Though I've read that, but I think it corrected a lot of perception. People thought that you are kind of related to the president. Thank you, Mr. Buhari. Thank you. I appreciate your time and your teaching. Okay, everyone, we're going to go on a short break. We were supposed to leave by 3, but we are doing it now. Not for you to disappear and not come back. We have we still have amazing speakers that are lined up. I mean, Bolare is coming next. You need to listen to him. I won't do any introduction. You need to listen to Bolare. He is loaded. He is a media mogul in Ghana. He owns the reigning TV stations, not just one. You know, he has radio stations, he has newspapers, magazine. He has a lot to offer us, and he's talking about something we need to hear. And then after him, we have sizzling, beautiful, exactly. We have a lot of people, so you need to come back, and we are coming back by 4, exactly at 4. You can join us before 4 because we'll get in here, 10 minutes before 4. So please feel free to go to our social media handles to see the next link for the next meeting. We would love to have each and every one of us. Yeah, we've put it up here. We would like to have each and every one of us come back. Please don't see that you are disappearing. Just get some rest. And in the next 45 minutes, we'll be back here for the next section. Thank you so much for being here with us. I hope you have learned. And feel free to go on social media and blast. Talk about the nuggets that you have learned. And don't forget
to use our hashtag.
Yes.
UN75 IYD 2020.
Absolutely.
Okay? Use it on Twitter, on Instagram, even on Facebook. Tell people what this section has done for you, because I'm sure it has been amazing. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, someone is there. I thought they were related. They are not related. Okay, thank you. So we'll let you go now. You can leave the meeting. Remember to come back in less than 45 minutes for the next session, loaded sessions, that we are entering again. So, and also talk about it on social media. Thank you so much. We'll be right back very soon. Don't go nowhere.
Bye for now.
Let go. Daddy. Check. What? Yeah.